Taylor Swift versus the F1 right here in Singapore. Which one is the better investment from the Singapore government's viewpoint when it comes to actually the capital or financial return in terms of the Singapore economy? Recently, we saw Taylor Swift perform 6 shows here in Singapore. Now, the exact figure that the government spent on having her perform here is a little murky, but let's assume that it was somewhere. We've seen figures reported of between $1 million and $3 million US per show. So let's use the top end of that and call it 25 million Singapore dollars spent on having Taylor Swift perform here in Singapore. Now, what we have seen is about 330,000 people attended those 6 shows. Of those shows, that ramped up hotel prices by about 30% right here in Singapore. The majority of people who were attending, or a very large portion, flew in from overseas, which naturally meant that hotel prices went up, restaurants made a lot of money. Of course, great news for the economy. Here's what it looks like in actual numbers. Singapore economists, bank economists here, increased the GDP forecasts for the quarter in Singapore by 0.2% on average. That is 300 to 400 million Singapore dollars of increased revenue because of Taylor Swift performing here. So at the top end, spent 25, received 3 to 400 million in terms of economic impact. Let's compare that to the F1. Now, the F1 started, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in 2008 and has brought in collectively about $1.5 billion in tourism spend, hotel spend, restaurants, etc., benefits for the economy. Now, each year, the F1 costs between $130 and $150 million, of which the Singapore government contributes about 60%. Again, these are rough figures, so we work on about $80 to $90 million that the government spends each year on the F1. The economic receipts, or the value add to the economy of the F1, is about $130 million. Now, those numbers still look pretty good. Spend 90, get 130, that's a 50% return on your investment. Certainly nothing to be sneezed at. Obviously, that has changed through COVID. We obviously saw reduced numbers. We saw the restrictions dampen those quite a great deal, but still a fairly positive return largely on the economic investment from Singapore's viewpoint. But we have Taylor Swift spending 25, give or take, getting a return of 3 to 400, and the F1 spending 90, getting a return of 130 to 150. Which is better? Well, of course, the F1 has been running for 15 to 16 years. Is it possible for Taylor Swift to come back and perform 6 shows and get the same economic impact? Look, I'm sure there are people much smarter than me who can answer that one, but there you have it, a bit of a comparison on the ROI between the F1 and Taylor Swift right here in Singapore.